said, is that we're going to talk for just a little bit, get you caught up to speed. Just by show of hands, is this anybody's first meeting at Pegasus Pilots? 1, 2, okay, 2 people, let's go. So we got some people, and you, 3 people. Okay, so we got some people that are new, some people that aren't. We just want to make sure everyone's familiar with what we're about. So we're going to get everyone caught up to speed. After that, Phil, you're going to play a video. After the video plays, you'll get the chance to speak. Tell us about what it's like. Can you briefly just tell them, like 30 seconds, who you are, what you fly, your story, what you did prior to the Florida Force Service? Just tell them quickly about yourself, please. Yeah, 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
So I spent 31 years in the fire service, structural firefighter down in Miami, retired in 2016. While I was with the fire department, I had the opportunity to train to fly helicopters. So after I retired, it didn't suck too bad, but it wasn't all that. So I had the opportunity to go back to work for the state, the Force Service, and that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome.
I fly fixed-wing reconnaissance aircraft, and yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it here in a few minutes.
Awesome, yeah, you'll have your separate slides ready to go. So we'll have those rolling. We're gonna just get our presentation out of the way first, and let's go ahead and get started. Josh, before I do roll forward, audio's good? Cool. I hope so. That's a huge job. Okay, sweet. Well, again, this is our guest speaker event, our first guest speaker event. It's March 7th. Already. I was looking at the Discord, and then I was like looking at the messages from the beginning of this year. Do you guys remember when we met to talk about the plane building project? I was looking at it, and it was like 55 days ago, and I was like, but yeah, that was a while ago. It's fine. Time flies. That's why we're Pegasus Pilots. So we're doing a lot of progress. I just want to make sure everyone's got that attendance thing taken care of, so that's sweet. Today we're going to be telling you about the fun things that's happening behind the curtains that you maybe haven't seen, and make sure that everybody's on the same page, so you're not like, wait, you guys are doing that? Yeah, we are. So we want to make sure everyone's familiar with that stuff. All right, it's also our first guest speaker event. Again, we're finally here. I was thinking about this earlier today. Josh, I was telling you when we were like splitting off last night, I was like, it's so crazy. We were talking on Reddit like 2 months ago, like, man, we gotta have a flying thing at UCF. And here we are, we're established, we're an RSO, we're having a first guest speaker, so we hit the ground running. So I'm just very, very happy to be here. So that being said, we do wanna take a quick picture. Surprise, it's time for photo. So we can all like pile into like one group awkwardly.
Those should be usable.
Okay, we sure hope so. Thank you, Josh. All right, cool. Mandatory government force picture has been taken care of. We're happy, I hope. Let's go ahead and move forward with the rest of our presentation. All right, this is a little bit of an interesting thing. Josh, you were there with me last night when this happened. Emma, for AIAA, do you guys have spammers come into the chat, to the Discord? Spammers? Like selling tickets and...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're not the only ones. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but we've had some people recently spam tickets in the Discord for some reason. It was Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, and...
Taylor Swift again.
Yeah, Taylor Swift again. I mean, if they put Big Time Rush, I wouldn't have cared, but I mean, make it worth it, right? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so just to, kind of clarify something, I'm not a person who's like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. I don't like doing that. But out of necessity, no conversations about tickets unless it's about fun and fun. I'm not going to try to dictate how you do things, but just be aware of scammers. If someone's like, yeah, let's meet up on campus and we'll exchange the tickets, cool, not a problem, I'm not against that. But if they're like, oh yeah, I can't meet because my cousins are in the hospital and I would have loved to meet you, but we can't, they're probably a scammer. So, you can have fun with them and block them, but I mean, be aware that it's a scam, okay? And then this was the, this doesn't even make sense. It's aviation news. And they're like, yeah, if you got a ticket that you want to buy, come to, it doesn't make sense. So, I don't know, man. Just keep these scammers out. We implemented some stuff, so hopefully it shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully that's the last of it. We hope. We'll see.
Jet, though.
Yeah, we do track our jet. Flight Radar 24, baby. So, you know what time it is, guys? It's catch-up time. It's the time where we get to catch you up on all the things that we've been doing. We have been really killing it with outreach presentations. That's how we get a lot of new interest, new members. So that's been great. I'm sure you're mostly familiar with the engineering lecture. That's how most of you have heard of us. And then like last minute, I'm taking environmental science, and then I talked to the professor, hey, we're gonna have a guest speaker. I should probably promote it. And I got a presentation there too. So we've been doing really great with that. And then there's a lot of organizational things behind the scenes that are coming together because, you're only seeing what's at the surface, and beneath that there's a ton of organizational, logistical things that have to be taken care of. So all of these different processes are becoming seamless, which is great. Josh, did you want to tell them about the Valiant Air Command update and UCF and how that whole thing's been? That's been interesting. Tell them about that.
So there's a rumor that UCF wants to fund a hangar at an Air Warburg Museum in Titusville to put simulators.
Yeah.
They want to put simulators for some sort of degree or program.
Yeah, you told me a simulation degree, right? So simulation something.
Along those lines. So I'll follow up with them to be like, hey, who are you?
Yeah. Again, because the director or whatever for the Valiant Air Command, so that's a great opportunity. That being said, speaking of UCF and great opportunity, I don't know where this is going to go, but if you guys look into it, you'll notice that other universities that are not like Embry-Riddle or not like UND, where they have like a 141 flight program, they do offer a private pilot ground elective that even though you can be an aerospace major, a business major, you can have a degree in underwater basket weaving, they don't care. It is still an elective that you can do, and why not? So I'm going to try to see if I can get the ball rolling on that. I mean, if it goes nowhere, it goes nowhere, but we're going to try, right? So that's something I want to do. Something that I was also thinking of, or I also learned of, I think it's the president of, what's it called, SWISC, I forget all the acronyms, but it's the Organization for Women in Space or something like that. I posted that thing that you guys may have seen, where they have this informational meeting about applying to be an astronaut, which is like, whoa. So I kind of put that in the Discord. That is, the president. She's like a PhD student, and she sent me this resource for a free ground school. A lot of you guys have been asking me about a free ground school. This is a resource to check out. It's at the executive airport. It's done by the EAA. Again, the president took it herself. She highly recommends the instructing of the program, of the course. So that's something we're just kind of throwing out there. Zero cost aside from gas to show up. So that's an opportunity for you there. Media strategy update. As you guys know, at Pegasus Pilots, we're so big on our media game. We have like 2 cameras and a microphone. Yeah, duh. We're super big on that, and it's for the reason that it is so important to show what we actually do. And if I'm telling people, show up to our meetings. The information's valuable. We have things that you can benefit from. Why should we hide that from people? Like, if you want to take it in and learn something, go for it. So that's the other end of it. So UCF actually has a podcast studio. So what we can try is if we can interview people. They have like cameras and everything. Like it's a whole thing. So it's something to try. A lot of stuff is experimental, just like the planes we might fly. So we're going to kind of see where that goes. But I'm just kind of showing you guys there's a lot of things we're trying out here. That's what that is. On our to-do list, Max, I'll just get with you sometime. It's not the biggest deal right now, but I want to have our bank account going. Do you have any updates about that?
I've done some looking, but nothing legally to share yet.
No worries, it's all good, no worries.
End of the week for sure.
Okay, that's fine. Getting people onto Knights Connect, a lot of people have been asking me about the process for us becoming officially an organization. It's great that we have Instagram followers and Discord people and all that stuff, but what UCF looks at whenever it's time to get ourselves reapproved is Knights Connect, and that's via the UCF email. That's why I put that on the attendance thing. That is what they look at, and if we fall below 12 people on that, which we don't have a problem with, thankfully, if we fall below 12 on Knights Connect, we can't get approved. Not a problem for us, though. We just want to make sure we don't forget to do that, and we're scrambling last minute, that kind of deal. Next week, we're going to have a quick impromptu meeting. I'm going to announce the details later on, but for Sun and Fun, this year, it'll just be pretty, we're going to go in groups, who's going to drive, who's going what days. There's also a volunteer form for Sun and Fun that I put in the Discord, so if you want to do that, you can. I'm trying to at least volunteer once, if not twice, and then just go one day for the fun of it. So whatever that is, we'll coordinate the logistics of it. So this year, we're just going to do what we can. Hopefully next year, 1 year later from now, we'll be able to make it a bit more, more coordinated, possibly have UCF offset the cost, because it is a networking event in the ultimate sense. So that's just something we have in the works. Another thing that I was recently made aware of is that there's a thing called the RSO Impact Awards. So that's basically this thing that OSI, the student government thing, they put this on, there's different categories. And we do qualify for one, the best new organization. I know, very surprising. The best new organization category. And that's just something I'm throwing out there. I think the voting ends on the 15th. But you know, we've been doing a lot of work, and I think for all the people that are involved in the effort, I mean, looking at the room right now, there's several people not here that have contributed a lot to us. And to everybody that's made some effort, I think we owe it to them that we at least try to get ourselves nominated and get that award if we can, because of all the hard work that everybody has been individually putting in to make this happen. So that's what's on the to-do list. Everyone should be on our Instagram and our Discord, so I'm going to go ahead and just skip through the next slide. Again, we're going to catch you up to speed with what we're doing, and of course, we have the Florida Forest Service here. So today, those are the two main things that we're aiming for. Shout out really quickly, I want to just talk about two people, because if we talked about everybody, Phil, you wouldn't have time to speak, so we just got two people for now. Brandon, you did a great job cleaning up the Discord. It was like the Wild West when I had it. It was like, I just threw stuff in. There's like 5 channels for the same thing. You made it really neat and organized, and Josh, you're doing a phenomenal job. I actually want to take the time really quickly to show you guys, if I can, a YouTube channel. I mean, you did a great job with the banner, and then the last couple of videos, I mean, you did these all on your own. Look at you, John. You're famous. You're on the thumbnail. You're famous. Should I show them the vice president debate? Okay. Tell them what happened while I pull it up.
Yeah, so both our batteries and the camera we were using died, so I switched to my phone, and it fell during the BP debate, so I had to grab stock footage.
There has to be video.
I grabbed stock footage of seals and sea lions because
cool. So you're hearing us talk, like, yes, for club dues, we should, and then it's just like sea lions. like you're unironically doing the best meme that we have. Like, how do you do that stuff? We were having a meeting one time, he played the national anthem for 2 seconds and like quietly shut it. I was like, what the? So yeah, he's pretty cool. But no, all jokes aside, you've done a great job getting this really clear. I really love this photo. We're gonna get a better picture with more than 3 people in it to show who we got. But you know, that's wonderful. Also, our Instagram. I'm gonna show you guys the actual numbers and all of that later on. I do have that for a slide, but we've been doing really good. I want to show you guys one particular thing. Who are these people? Oh wow, look at that. So I made this post, and then we got up to like what 37, 38 likes. And I hate to be that social media person, but objectively on paper, this is how we track and see how we are reaching people. If we post something and we get like 3 likes, I think we got to reevaluate how we're reaching people. But the fact that we posted this, we got like what, 38 likes, cool. I made another post from the best pictures we got from EGN. We got a similar number of likes in almost a day, and I was like, whoa. So that was really, really cool to see. So the point is, I'm trying to show you guys that we are putting in a lot of effort to reach new people, to reach new members. And even though that last presentation was like a room full of the same people, we did extremely, extremely well. So great job on that. Thank you again, Brandon and Josh, for the work you guys have been doing. Let's cover some industry news, because I mean, we got to keep you guys up to date with what's going on, right? So in case you guys don't know, it's recently been unveiled that China has a little bit too much information about some planes that we have. Raise your hand if you think that the F-22 is important for national defense. Uh-oh, I think we have a problem, because they know a thing or two about the F-22. So, in case you don't yet know, yes, there are, of course, like secret alien things that the government does that we don't know of, like lasers, blowing stuff up. But the majority of secret stuff that's important for national security aren't things that are big and grand. It's the specifics of certain weapon systems, radio frequencies, all the nitty-gritty, this thing that the devil's in the details. That's where it comes from. The fact that they know that is not the best thing in the world. And it's not just that. It's the F-22, they got the F-18, F-15, E-3. So that's not really so well. I tried to find a meme about national security. I couldn't find one, but I found one that's relevant to Boeing. Let's hope that this will be another opportunity for them to improve. So yeah, that's cool, whatever. Again, the outreach presentation, I want to do a debrief on that. Again, these are some of the best shots that we have. To put the big one up front, we were perfect and precise. That's it. We put so much work into the presentation beforehand, and we showed up ready. That is the important part. Here's why. Whenever we do guest lectures and they show up and they see that, for example, if Phil shows up, we're kind of like, Yeah, whatever. But we ask them a lot of questions. We say, hey, what's up, man? Everyone walks in, they introduce themselves. That is reputation. So he's going to go to someone and say, you know, I went to UCF and they have this really cool organization. They care a lot. They're involved. It's the same thing. When we ask Ms. Sullivan to go and speak, and we get allotted some time to do that, we show up ready, prepared, and perfect. That means a lot. And I'm going to explain why in the next couple slides. First of all, this is going to apply to, again, the 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, and the 11:30 lecture. But the idea was that we have our promo video. We played that like 4 minutes prior to 30 minutes past the hour, and then we would have 10 minutes to speak. We were perfect every single time. There was not a single presentation when we went over for 10 minutes. In fact, that was like my point, like, oh, look, we're pilots, we're precise. 10 minutes, baby, exactly. So that was our thing. So that went perfect. Going down to the more specific details, again, we were always under 10 minutes. We never added stuff in last minute, like, oh, give me that PowerPoint, I gotta add this in. We were ready. So everything was ready to go the day of. We adjusted to dynamics well. This is an aviation concept that parallels well into other domains of life. That's the beauty of flying. You know, even though things may happen that are not your fault, it's your responsibility, all right? So it wasn't our fault that the the computer wasn't ready for us to go up right at 8:30, but it wasn't ready. It's our problem. We have to deal with it. I had to speak in 7 minutes instead of 10. Okay, cool, doesn't matter. We adjusted just fine. Because remember, it wasn't just me speaking, it was other people that came up and talked. You guys did great on that. Thank you so much for keeping us on time for that. Josh, do you have any comments about how we did the video and the photography setup for that or no?
Pretty straightforward, so not really.
Yeah, okay, good. The audio sounds really good on this, guys. I'm just saying, like, I was very, very happy with that. These are the actual numbers. We gained a total of 28 Instagram followers, woohoo! And then we got 22 Discord followers. Again, that's pretty darn good considering we got 200 on one day. So these are the same group of people. So, you know, you might say, oh, only 22. That is good considering that we got 200 back in November. So I'm very, very happy with that. And we actually got to that point where, you know, like Discord has like showing the offline people, like someone's online and offline. Now the amount of people offline is in the 200s. So that's really insane to see. I was like, whoa. So it all went really well. The only negative things, which I kind of highlight in red, good things in green, negative things in red, these are pretty darn minor. This was after our presentation, but highlights the importance of redundancy, which is another aviation concept, having backups to your backup. Right about when I made the post to present the guest speaker event for Phil, guess what crashed? Instagram, yay, it was great. And if we have a presentation and something that happens in the future, again, not our fault, but still our problem. We have to deal with it. So by having an extra QR code ready, by having people here who are able to possibly get their contact information, do it the old school way to get them involved, we are prepared for any types of adversities we may face. So that just highlights how, you know, we have planned ahead for those types of things. We should get a link tree so our Instagram's a bit more neat. Just one singular link, that's not a big deal to do. The QR codes could have also been a little bit smaller. These are super small details, but I mean, if you think that's picky, go listen to a military flight debriefing. It's like 6 hours for a 2-hour sortie. They replay the HUD tapes. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be precise, trying to be perfect. So we're trying to get better in any way that we can. We also had a minor issue with the microphone. When I would walk in certain parts of the room, it would like cut and it would go out of range. We should be fine now, but you know, that happened in the lecture. And then John, you made a good point. My phrase, death by PowerPoint, is just how I talk, but people might perceive it the wrong way, so you made a good point to avoid saying that. And I only said it once, but still. All right, this is our strategy for anything. You guys are like math nerds, you should get this, an asymptote, right? Perfection is like an asymptote. Even though we can never touch it, we're sure as hell gonna try to come close to it. There's no excuse not to get better. Every single meeting, every single event, we're always gonna debrief, we're gonna learn from it and get better from it, no matter what. So that's the idea with every single thing that we do. That's why we have advanced so quickly in the short time that we've been active. Okay, before I do move on, does anybody have any quick comments, questions, concerns? Oh, we're just that good? Wow, okay. Okay, cool. All right, so we copied that. Now we're gonna go ahead and get into the back half of the presentation, which is our guest organization, which is gonna be the Florida Forest Service. The way that I like to word it in my environmental lecture is that when people typically think of the Forest Service, they think of Smokey the Bear. and a tree on fire, and that's great. But a lot of people don't realize that there are specific opportunities or specific elements of forestry firefighting and management that you're not aware of, such as an aviation aspect. The whole point of going to college, of going to these types of events, is such that you get a unique learning opportunity you otherwise wouldn't get. That's the whole point of it. So these things are niche, they're specific. That is the whole point. That's what we're here for. So that being said, I just had a couple slides here showing some pictures, for example. These are the Piper Archers that they use. You said these are going to go into reserves, right?
Yes.
A little bit more, yeah, go into reserves. So they're going to be, he's going to tell you the details about their fleet, their operations, but they have fixed wing, and of course, you guys know they have rotary wing. This is like one of my favorite helicopter pictures ever. Like, I just had to use it for the cover slide. That's how good it was. I'm sure you guys can read, so I'm not going to, read off a slide. That's not what I'm here for. But Phil is also going to tell you guys not just about the aviation part, but about the organization as a whole. It's kind of weird if you walk away from this presentation knowing only flying stuff and nothing about the organization, so that's kind of important. So, that being said, if we could please give a warm round of applause for Pegasus Pilot's first ever guest speaker, Phil Dimaria, come on up. We'll go ahead and get your presentation going. You want to play your video first, correct?
Yeah, so just start out with a 12-minute video. It's
Yeah, go ahead and get this on. You happy with it? Yeah, I got you. All right, Josh, is the audio going to come through okay?
We good? Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
Fine to me.
All right.
All right.
We'll figure out when we upload it.
All right. I appreciate the invite. I guess it's an honor to be the first guest speaker. So
you are.
I'd just like to start out with a short 12-minute video. It's an overview of our agency. As Andrew said, I'm part of the aviation section, but there's a lot more to the Forest Service, and so we'll just go ahead and play the video, and then we'll get into what we came to talk about afterwards.
Turn off the lights just for this because it's just the video. So we can go and turn these off. Well, I don't know if I can turn the lights off up front. That's not what I wanted. Let me actually see. I can do that really quickly. Room lights.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, that's a little bit nicer.
All right.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and play it for you. No worries.
Okay.
No worries.
Perfect. Out of the way.
Sweet. Josh, I'm scared. I don't think the audio's working. Josh, help me.
What's wrong?
I don't think the audio's working
For like what?
for the computer. It was playing just fine a minute ago.
It also isn't playing the video. Okay.
Don't worry, I can play it on my laptop if I have to. I just hope it works. Hey John, tell them a fun fact about yourself. Impromptu public speaking, go for it.
Down one.
Air command today.
This.
Cool.
Yeah, I got you.
Nice.
Keep talking. Stall. Not the airplane stall, the other kind of stall. Yeah, I don't know if this is honestly. I know what happened because I played this on the computer a little longer. I don't know why. Yeah, let me try this one more time. I played it on here and. Yeah, let's see if that works. Okay, let's try that again. Sweet. Oh yay! Woo! Okay.
First comment was, "This is a good type of Florida man."
Okay, let's get this mouse out of the way.
As an organization, we have a proud history of service to the citizens of this state. The Florida Forest Service manages more than 1 million acres of public forest land while protecting 26 million acres of homes, forest land, and natural resources from the devastating effects of wildfire. We are the Florida Forest Service.
We are the Florida Forest
Florida
Service.
Forest Service. We are the Florida Forest Service.
We are the Florida Forest Service.
We are the Florida Forest Service.
Forest Service of today has a long history of public service, helping to conserve, enhance, and protect Florida's forests. Florida's forests cover a large area of the Sunshine State. Nearly 1/2 of the state's 35.7 million acres is forested, covering more land area than New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts combined. Florida's vast forest land supports an industry that creates more than 5,000 types of consumer goods, contributes $14.7 billion to the state's economy, and supports more than 76,000 jobs. Today's Florida Forest Service is a highly trained, dynamic workforce charged with protecting Florida and its people from the dangers of wildfire and managing Florida's forest resources through a stewardship ethic to assure that they are available for future generations. For thousands of years, naturally caused wildfires have burned regularly in Florida's forests. Each year, Florida averages approximately 5,000 wildfires statewide. Wildfire is the term applied to any unwanted, unplanned, damaging fire burning in forest, shrub, or grass. During dry years, Florida experiences severe wildfires. Wildfires that destroy homes, disrupt people's lives, and impact our economy. While the Florida Forest Service's end goal of preventing loss of life, property, and natural resources has remained the same throughout the years, the strategies and tactics associated with wildfires have evolved. Excessive buildup of flammable vegetation has made today's wildfires harder to control, expensive to suppress, and they have become a serious threat to wildland firefighters and civilians alike. In response, the Florida Forest Service has combined reactive fire suppression tactics with more proactive fire management programs that apply wildfire prevention and wildfire mitigation to reduce unwanted wildfire ignitions and minimize damage from wildfires. As part of its reactive fire suppression program, the Florida Forest Service employs more than 630 wildland firefighters that battle the blazes using a range of specialized equipment, no matter the terrain or location. The Florida Forest Service also boasts one of the foremost wildfire and forestry aviation programs in the country. The Florida Forest Service uses specially equipped helicopters in fire suppression and maintains a fleet of fixed-wing airplanes for detection and fire intelligence during suppression activities. Another key component to addressing Florida's wildfire concerns is the prevention of wildfires. The goal of the Florida Forest Service's fire prevention program is to prevent unwanted human-caused wildfires. Each of the Florida Forest Service's 15 field units houses a wildfire prevention team that plays an important role in helping to reduce human-caused wildfires locally. But does fire prevention work? Yes. While there are many activities that can limit damage from wildfires, wildfire prevention programs can be particularly beneficial in reducing the number of wildfire ignitions. It is crucial to keep in mind that fire is an essential, natural, and often necessary process in Florida's ecosystems. The Florida Forest Service acknowledges that some wildfires are simply inevitable. Through its wildfire mitigation programs, the Florida Forest Service takes steps to reduce the risks associated with those inevitable wildfires. Currently, almost 1/3 of Florida's population lives in areas where structures intermingle with forests and wildlands. Citizens that reside in these locations often don't realize that by living close to nature, they may also be living on the edge of a wildfire disaster. Through several wildfire mitigation programs, such as the Firewise Communities USA program, the Florida Forest Service educates communities on how they can help protect their families, homes, and businesses from a devastating wildfire. Another way that the Florida Forest Service conducts wildfire risk reduction is by working to reduce the buildup of flammable plant materials that serve as fuel for wildfire throughout Florida. The Florida Forest Service has several programs and services that help manage these areas. These services include mowing, fire line plowing, and prescribed fire. Prescribed fire is a safe and highly effective way to apply a natural process, ensure ecosystem health, and reduce wildfire risk. By using prescribed fire in an area that poses a high wildfire risk, a future wildfire in the same area will be less intense, less dangerous, and easier to extinguish. In an average year, the Florida Forest Service issues 120,000 prescribed burning authorizations. In addition, there are currently more than 1,600 certified prescribed burn managers in Florida that manage more than 2.3 million acres of agricultural and natural lands annually with prescribed fire. Prescribed fire also has other important benefits in addition to wildfire risk reduction. Prescribed fire provides improved forage for wildlife and livestock, returns nutrients to the soil, and helps control certain plant diseases. The Florida Forest Service also uses prescribed fire as a vital land management tool on its state forest lands. The Florida Forest Service has guided the operation of state forests for more than 75 years and is currently responsible for managing more than 1 million state forest acres. Florida's state forests are managed under a multiple-use land objective, including timber, recreation, fish and wildlife, habitat, water quality, and more. Through sound forest management practices, the Florida Forest Service is able to maintain the integrity of the forest environment while providing for the state's future natural resource needs. The Florida Forest Service is proud of its efforts to ensure that the land and resources entrusted to it are managed responsibly and conscientiously. The Florida Forest Service also assists private citizens with the management of their own forest lands. County foresters provide technical assistance to private landowners by helping them develop forest management plans based on custom objectives, as well as management recommendations to meet their individual land management goals and to help keep their forests healthy, renewable, and sustainable for years to come. County foresters also provide other landowner assistance services, such as advice for pruning, fertilization, tree identification, water quality and wildlife protection, and assistance with tree disease and pest problems. Throughout Florida, the Florida Forest Service has been a champion for sustainable and renewable forests. In addition to the economic benefits that Florida's private and public forests provide, they also provide clean air and water, shade and energy conservation, habitat for birds and animals, aesthetic beauty, recreation, and more. The Florida Forest Service is a division of the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. For more information about forestry, wildfire, or prescribed fire in Florida, please visit floridaforestservice.com.
All right, sweet. So have you ever gotten a chance to drive the bulldozer they have? I was wondering about that. You got
Yes,
different apparatus?
yes.
Wow.
Yes, I have.
That's like a really weird thing because, typically when I think of like firefighters, you just think of the engine, but you guys have airplanes, helicopters, bulldozers. Like, I saw a video where they were responding to a call. It was like a trailer with the bulldozer. I was like, what in the world? It was so cool.
Yes.
So you guys have a bunch of unique apparatus, a bunch of unique equipment. Let's go ahead and first of all, we should probably see. So let's get these lights back on, and then we'll let you do your presentation. And if you guys have any questions, we can kind of go through it like that. Can you get that light switch, please?
Yep. Wait.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these are a little. We're here. Let me try these. Every room
There
is
it is.
different. Yeah, there we go. Every room's different, so we're learning. Cool.
All right.
Go ahead and get this going for you, then I'll just go to the next slide as you need. All right.
Okay. Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay. Click. So that gives you a good overview of what our agency, the Florida Forest Service, is all about, and kind of segue into why I think a lot of us are here today is the aviation aspect. The aviation or aircraft section of the Forest Service exists to support the men and women on the ground. We don't put out fires from the air. We don't do it here in Florida. They don't do it in California. They don't do it anywhere. Our job is to support the folks on the ground with reconnaissance and by providing targeted drops with retardant or water to cool the fire or contain the fire front to allow the folks on the ground to get in there and construct fire lines. As Andrew said, one of the primary tools that we use here in Florida are bulldozers. Most of our fire line construction here in Florida is mechanized. We use bulldozers, or what we refer to as tractors, with fire plows on them. If you've seen some of the fires from out west, out in California, you'll see the hand crews. Those are typically 20-person crews, and they're out there with hand tools on the side of a mountain with a million-acre raging wildfire, and they're there cutting fire lines. The reason for that is very difficult to get heavy equipment into some of these areas. But here in Florida, with our topography, flat land, and the type of vegetation that we're dealing with, we're able to use bulldozers and other heavy equipment to construct the fire line. Talked a little bit in the video about the mission of the Forest Service, the vision of the Forest Service. Click. So the aviation section, the Florida Forest Service maintains the second largest aviation section dedicated to wildfire detection and suppression in the country, second only to California, CAL FIRE. Currently we have, and this probably changed today because it's changing daily, but currently we have 32 aircraft in the fleet, 21 fixed-wing single-engine piston aircraft. We have one single-engine turboprop, and currently 11 helicopters. The reason I say that is this year the Forest Service was able to secure some $60 million in additional funding for new aircraft and aircraft replacement. The single-engine turboprop is a new Dehar Kodiak 100. We've got a second one of those coming in, should be here any day. Those will be our new multi-mission aircraft. Those are replacing our current multi-mission aircraft, which are twin-engine Piper Navajos. Our single-engine fleet is split kind of between the Cessna 182s and the Piper Archers, if you're familiar with those. And we have currently 11 helicopters in the fleet. 5 Type 2, which are the little bit larger, that's a medium helicopter, and 6 Type 3s, which are light helicopters.
Hey, quick question.
Yes.
Do you guys have any future air shows or events where these aircraft, because when I went to the Stewart Air Show where I met you, you guys had the Kodiak, so like Sun and Fun, Orlando, Sanford, do you guys have any outreach there?
So I was just notified that we've got the Vero Beach Air Show coming up in May, May 3, 4, 5, I believe. So we're still getting verification as to whether we're going to be participating in that, but it looks like we will be.
Okay, just so you guys know, May 3, 4, 5 is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so it should be okay for us. Awesome,
Yep.
thank you. All right, cool.
Okay, and this is our current fleet. We have the, as I said, the Archers, the 182 Skylanes, the Kodiak. Our primary initial attack helicopter now is the Bell UH-1 Iroquois, or the Huey. They're great helicopters. Ours are all excess federal property. They came from the military, and they're old. The helicopter that we have assigned to our base in Okeechobee is a 1964 model that I'm told saw action in Vietnam, was shot down twice, repaired, somehow made it back stateside, and is now serving the citizens of Florida as a firefighting helicopter. But they're old, they're getting tired, the airframes are up there in hours, so those will be replaced over the next year with the Bell 212 Single Eagle, which is basically the same airframe, but a much updated version of that aircraft. We're still flying one of the OH-58s, Kiowas. That's a smaller light helicopter, and that's used primarily for aerial ignition, and we don't typically use that for dropping water. And then the newest ones in the fleet, we've got 5, and we've got a 6th coming, the Augusta Westland, or Leonardo AW-119, also known as the Koala.
The aerial ignition, that means lighting fires from the...
So that means, as it talked about in there, Florida is very proactive in terms of forest management. We manage about 2 million acres of land with prescribed fire every year. So we burn intentionally. We burn more land than California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, than the whole western United States. So the forest is very proactive, and that's one of the things that reduces our fire risk significantly here in Florida is that the use of prescribed fire and proactive fire forest management.
And you guys don't have the Cobra no more, do you? I saw the Cobra.
So they had those for a couple of years, yeah. But they've been phased out. Yeah. So yeah. As far as the aviation goes, the state, the Forest Service divides the state into 4 regions. Within those 4 regions, we have 5 helicopter bases. Whiting Field out in Milton, Florida, out in the Panhandle, Tallahassee, Ocala, Okeechobee, and Fort Myers. Those are our helicopter bases. And then we have 15 districts throughout the state. Each district is assigned a fixed-wing aircraft and a pilot. And my home district is Okeechobee. I cover 6-county area: Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, Okeechobee, Highlands, and Glades. About 5,000 square miles. And this shows our initial attack zones for the helicopters. Again, they have a little bit larger initial attack area. Each of these, let me see, yeah. So each of these, it's a little difficult to see, but each of these areas is a district, okay? And then the larger areas, which don't really show up well, are the helicopter initial attack zones, okay? And those are the 15 field units throughout the state. Our primary mission with the fixed wing fleet is detection. So we go out and look for fires. During typical year, we'll fly anywhere from about 300 to maybe 400 hours. About 60% of that is detection, going out, conducting routine patrols, largely dictated by the fire danger on any particular given day. About 30% of our flying is functioning in what we refer to as air attack, or that airborne command and control function. So We provide reconnaissance for the incident commanders on the ground, situational awareness for the firefighters who are working. What you'll see, and this is one of the reasons why, even as a pilot, they want us to get in a tractor, in a bulldozer, and see what it's like. And basically, it's kind of like if any of you are pilots and have flown and done any instrument work, it's kind of like the same thing. You see about the same thing out of that bulldozer as you see in the airplane with the, with the hood or the foggles on, which is not much. So, they're in dense vegetation, heavy smoke. They don't know which way is which, so we keep an eye on them and help them out by providing access to the fires and calling out potential hazards to suppression to them. And the other thing we do is coordinate other aerial firefighting resources. So when we have helicopters on a fire or fixed-wing air tankers, my job as an air attack pilot is to coordinate those resources. So we're working with the incident commanders on the ground. They're working out their strategy, and then we'll work with them to direct the aerial resources where they need to go, what they need to do, provide feedback as to the effectiveness of their drops and so forth. We basically become the air traffic controller in the sky. Some of the other things that we do, training and proficiency is important. We do aerial surveys for other state agencies, things like the southern pine beetle, and we'll do surveys for force management, best management practices, monitoring those things. From time to time, we'll assist law enforcement if we're called on, and just provide transportation around the state. If we need to move people from one area to another, we can do that relatively quickly in the airplane.
I just want to say, I do have to head out now, but thank you so much for coming.
Oh, appreciate it, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I appreciate you. Hey, Phil, I do have a question since you just talked about training and proficiency, because John, we have to get our proficiency back up. Can you tell us the schedule as a pilot for the Forest Service? How often do you guys train, practice? What does that look like too? Because you're not just doing takeoff and landings. You're having to do the procedures as you do the real fires. So
we're required to do an annual flight review with the agency. So very similar to what they used to call a BFR, biannual flight review. I guess they now call it just a flight review every 2 years. I don't know. But we do that. And then we'll get with other district pilots to do some instrument proficiency or training, on our own like that. So, but we're also required to maintain, the requirements under Part 91.
Yep.
So, the 3 takeoffs and landings and night and currency and so forth. Our helicopters, their primary mission is fire suppression. We use external buckets, referred to as a Bambi bucket. The Hueys can carry about 320 gallons of water. The 119 is about 180 gallons of water. And what we'll do is we'll just locate some area nearby the fire where we can go ahead in and dip water, drop it, and we'll just keep doing that all day. Another thing, and I just mentioned it briefly earlier, is the aerial ignition. For larger areas, when we're doing prescribed fire, it's a lot easier, quicker, safer to do it from the air. So we have a device known as a PLDO, and I'd tell you what the acronym is, but I forget. Basically little ping pong size balls that are filled with a chemical, potassium permanganate, and it's injected with another chemical, ethyl glycol. The mixture creates a reaction, and as those things are ejected out of the machine and out of the helicopter, they'll ignite the fires on the ground. We had another thing called a helitorch, which was basically a big old blowtorch that hung beneath the helicopter. Yeah, no, that was always the question.
Okay.
So, and the other thing we'll do is if we have to move personnel and get personnel to remote areas to attack a fire on the ground, we can use helicopters as well for that.
That'd be really interesting if your house is like near like a forest fire, like, oh, thank God the helicopter's here, and drops balls of fire.
If it's a wildfire, we're not going to be dropping, but hopefully we'll be dropping water and not the balls. So, as I said, I kind of came into the Forest Service and became a pilot a little bit different. I never had aspirations of flying professionally or as a career, but when I worked in the fire department, I had the opportunity to train to fly helicopters. They made me a smoking deal, show us a commercial pilot's license, 500 hours of pilot and command time and an instrument rating, and we'll send you to school to learn how to fly helicopters. Count me in. So I did that. My career went a little different path, so I never ended up actually flying. You know, I was trained and had an opportunity to fly on occasion, but never flew regularly for the fire department. Then when I retired and this opportunity came up, I said, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So our minimum requirements are commercial pilot, single engine land, and a Class 2 medical with an instrument rating, and 750 hours total time. And lately they've actually been entertaining applications with less than that. Like a lot of people, aviation related, we've had difficulty recruiting and retaining pilots. It's kind of difficult, you know, the state can't compete salary-wise with the airlines. So, you know, when somebody has an offer from the airlines at 3 times what they're making for the state, you know, it's very tough. The gentleman you saw there, Bo, who said, yeah, I never gonna go to the airlines. Guess where Bo's flying, okay? So, yeah, helicopters, commercial rotorcraft, Class 2 medical instrument helicopter, and 1,000 hours. That had always been the minimum, as he said. 1,000 hours was a hard minimum, but like I say, they've had to adjust a little bit with you know, what's going on in the industry now. Some desired experience and qualifications. Again, they have entertained some applications at lower. I don't think they've hired anybody less than 750, but what they're looking for, you know, when you come in with those minimums, they're looking for some other things. They're looking for some experience in low-level flight, pipeline utility traffic patrol, ag flying, you know, electric news gathering, like especially for the helicopter guys, that they're looking for that kind of stuff. Previous wildland firefighting, either aerial operations or ground operations. Time in the specific aircraft make and model that we use, a high performance endorsement because the 182s are considered high performance aircraft, and experience in technically advanced aircraft, specifically the G1000. Our aircraft are equipped with the G1000. So those are the kind of things they like to see, and you know, if you, and the last thing on there is recency. You know, for anybody who's flown or taken flying lessons, there's a big difference between, you know, there's a big difference between 250 hours and 250 hours. 250 hours obtained over the last 12 months is significantly different than 250 hours gained over the last 10 years. So that's one of the things also that they consider is that recency of experience. In addition to being pilots, all of our pilots are certified firefighters. The reason for this is we're obviously not down there on the ground fighting the fire, but we have to have an understanding of wildland fire behavior, tactics, terminology, because we're working with the incident commanders on the ground, so we have to know, we have to be able to speak the same language. We have to be able to anticipate what the fire is doing so that we can relay that information to the incident commanders and the folks on the ground. So we all go through the Wildland Fire Academy. We refer to it as BFCT, or Basic Fire Control Training. The academy itself involves 60 hours of emergency medical training, 43 hours of structural firefighting training, and it's basically just awareness for our folks, and 135 hours of actual wildland fire training, plus 344 hours of additional training that we do in the field unit. For the pilots, and this is for the pilots, we actually have a little bit higher total time. It comes out to, I think if you add those up, it's 582 hours total. And about just under 100 hours of that is aviation-specific training, both ground and flight training.
I do have one question before we go on. So I see that there is emergency structural and there's wildland fire. So emergency structural, is that basically the same that regular firefighters go through, and then the wildland is where
So the emergency medical training it's a basic, if you're familiar with EMT, emergency medical technician, it's like a level below that.
Okay.
So it's called EMR, emergency medical responder, and then the next level would be EMT, emergency medical technician, and then paramedic would be the next level in that medical order. So yeah. And you can see this was just some stuff for the pilots. We did an outreach. So if you are flying around and you hear us on the radio, our call sign is forestry something. In this case, I'm forestry 59. If you're looking at your traffic display on your iPad or your ADSB, it'll show up as Fox Sierra 59. And when we're on a fire, we'll be squawking 1255.
That's the unique transponder code only for aerial firefighting.
That is correct.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's so cool.
Yes, and believe it or not, a lot of controllers don't know that. You got to say, they say, "What are you squawking?" Squawking 1255. Yeah, what's that? We're a firefighting aircraft. Oh, I didn't know that. I said, well, it's someplace in the controller handbook, but yeah, it's. So, and then statewide, we use 122.925 as our air-to-air.
Yeah.
And, you know, generally we're also monitoring the guard frequency when we're.
What do radio calls sound like air-to-air? Like, can you give me some examples of what they might sound like in the air-to-air?
So one of the things that we do, like with other resources, if you click the next one, I think maybe it, yeah. So this is kind of what I manage, is this what we call the FTA, or fire traffic area. So when there's a fire, we establish this area. It's roughly 5 nautical miles in diameter from the identified center of the fire up into about 2,500 feet. And we kind of manage that airspace, okay? So one of the things that we'll do is, for example, any aircraft coming in, we'll provide an altimeter setting, so that we're all using the same altimeter setting, so we're all at the same altitude. Nobody's off. So my job is to let them. Number one, I'll say, you know, if it's 435, you know, 4324 from 4359, you're cleared into the fire traffic area. Altimeter settings 2992. You know, you have power lines on the right flank of the fire. You've got a communications antenna about 2 miles northwest. You've got a dip site on the east side. It looks like it's going to work for you. So we'll give them information. Basically giving them an update of what they've got. With the fixed wing air tankers, you know, again, we'll clear them in to the area, let them know what they need to do, where they need to go. So, you know, it'll be like, you know, tanker 902, I need you to you know, begin at the heel of the fire and work up the left flank, you know, and just tag and extend your drops or whatever. So we're kind of like the air traffic controller. We're like the tower for that fire traffic area.
I knew you guys did that. That's cool.
So yeah.
Oh, sure, go back.
So is the airspace, like, you break it into blocks?
Yes. So.
Or altitude?
Yes. So helicopters normally will stay 500 and below. The tankers will come in maneuvering. They'll come in at 1,000, and then I usually be at 1,500 or above. They have another, you know, the air tanker orbit altitude. We typically don't see, especially here, the way we operate, we typically don't see, you know, they'll go ahead and make their drops and exit the fire traffic area as opposed to orbit. But if we have multiple air tankers that we're trying to sequence in, then we'll go ahead and we'll give them an orbit over the fire, and then I'll just move up a little bit in that stack just to stay out of their way. Click. Again, this was for the pilots, you know, and what started some of this was, you know, we had I had a flight instructor and a student one day who were very curious and were chasing me around a smoke column, you know, for about 15 minutes. I'm like, what are you guys doing? So, of course, you know, now you can't hide. You just, okay, yeah, I got you. Find out, yeah, it's the Acme Flight School over there. Call up the chief instructor. Hey, can we talk? But we just ask, you know, for any of you pilots, if you're out there and you see the smoke, there's a good likelihood, especially here in Florida, that there will be aircraft. So we ask, number one, just avoid the area. Keep the drones on the ground. Don't launch your drones to get a good look at it. We try to avoid putting up the TFRs just because it mucks everybody up. And we're not, you know, we're not looking to violate somebody, but on larger fires or extended fires, be aware that you know, we may establish a TFR, a temporary flight restriction area. So just stay clear.
Stay away from the fire. It applies on the ground and in the air. I do have one question about that. Let's say like I'm flying like VFR or something like that, and I see a fire. Obviously, you know, I'm aware of the principles of a fire and from firefighting tactics, upwind and downwind, what wind concerns there are. So as a pilot, when I'm making the decision to get away from it, obviously consult with air traffic control, but let's say this is just like, I'm not on flight following, I'm on my own. Should I basically use the winds to kind of understand where you guys are going to be in terms of suppression, or does it vary?
It's going to, because if we've got aircraft, we're going to be anywhere within that 5 mile, you know, or 5 mile radius of the
Okay. Well, I'll say more than 5 miles.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I said diameter before, but it's 5 mile radius from the center.
Gotcha.
Just a little bit, we talked about some air tankers. The state, we do not have any fixed-wing air tankers in our fleet. And the only agencies that I'm aware of that have those are CAL FIRE. They're flying the Grumman S2 trackers. And I think Georgia's got a couple of what we refer to as seats or single engine air tankers. They're flying the Thrush switchbacks. But if we need air tankers, we will get them. We have public and private partnerships, so we'll call on those. The state maintains it called CWN, call when needed. So we'll maintain contracts with various vendors to provide those assets should we need them. And our primary air tanker that we use here is the seats, the single engine air tankers. I've never seen any of the scoopers down here. And the larger air tankers, the LATs, the large air tankers, and the VLATs, the very large air tankers, you may see those more in the northern part of the state. If you see them, and we have had them in the southern part of the state, it's largely a photo op. They are very reluctant to use the chemical retardants, what we call slurry, because of potential environmental impacts. You know, any of that stuff runs off, gets in the streams and waters, ends up in Lake Okeechobee, and then down in the Everglades, can have some environmental impacts. So they'll use water. The problem is, while it can be effective, it's not really what they're designed to do. The retardant will adhere to vegetation and slow the fire spread. The plain water will also, you know, extinguish some of the fire, cool the fire, and slow the fire spread a little bit. But by the time they go and reservice and return, you've kind of lost that, and you know, normally what you would do with the retardants is you would lay down a line, and then the next one what we refer to as tag and extend. They would start where the previous drop stopped and continue, and because that retardant adheres to the vegetation, you can do that. With the water, it's not as effective tool in this case. So, you know, and they require a lot of runway and turnaround time. There was a tanker base in Lake City in North Florida. We can stand up, if it's a bad fire season, we can stand up tanker bases elsewhere, but normally if we called one in, it would be, you know, number one, the tanker would have to be there, and then they're going to service it, and you know, so we've had them down in South Florida, but they've got about a 90-minute to 2-hour turn time, and it's just not very effective. And that's just some more stuff about air tanker typing, helicopters as well. Everything in the Forest Service is typed, so it's basically it's given a designation based on its capabilities. So the Type 1 are the largest helicopters, like the Chinook, the UH-60, the Black Hawk, or the civilian variant of that, which is the S-70 Firehawk. Those things can carry 1,000 gallons of water. The Sikorsky Sky Crane is another big helicopter. The Type 2s are what we're flying, the Hueys, and then all the variants of the Huey can carry between 320, 360 gallons of water. Interesting helicopter is the K-Max. It's got a twin intermeshing rotor system. If you Google it, when you see it, you go, wait, something's not right with that thing. But it's an interesting helicopter. It was designed specifically for external load, single pilot, but it was designed to lift stuff. And then the light helicopters, the Type 3s, the Long Ranger, Jet Ranger, the A-Star. And that's just a little bit more about helicopter typing. You've got a copy of this, and you could share it with anybody. This comes from CAL FIRE, okay. But this just goes through all of the various firefighting aircraft, both tactical. There's the Cobra you were talking about.
I think CAL FIRE retired Cobras too.
My understanding is there was an issue with the external load. They were never designed to carry an external load, you know, under the helicopter. They were retrofitted to do so, and they were trying to get engineers to sign off on it. No one would sign off on it. The thing about the way we operate, our helicopters operate under what's referred to as special public use. So basically, we do not come under the jurisdiction of the FAA. So our helicopters are not subject to the same inspections or this, any of the same regulations that would apply to civilian aircraft. There's some restrictions because of that, in terms of, who can be on the helicopter and so forth. But because we operate under that kind of special rules, it allowed us to do things like this. But I guess at some point they just decided that it was, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, and they got rid of them. And this is just some examples of various aircraft that have been retrofitted for fire suppression. And if you keep going, let me see, keep going. Okay, so right here, the Canadair, the CL-215 and 415 are the only, and the Thrush, the seat, are the only aircraft that were ever specifically designed for firefighting. So that from concept to flight was designed specifically to fight fires, and they're pretty cool. So, yep, and I think. Oh, and that's it.
Cool.
That's my information. If you want to grab it, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah,
call me,
I of
email
course have
me.
a couple questions.
But yeah, so we'll go ahead and open it up.
Yeah, we'll open up the questions before I go, because I know that a couple. John, you got some, Amit has some, so John, go first.
Do you all do a lot of stuff with the Army National Guard as far as fire suppression?
No.
Gotcha.
We do some. We just had an event in Hillsborough County. Every year we get together with various law enforcement agencies that have the capability to drop water, or other fire agencies. And in the past, the National Guard has participated in that as well. They do a little bit more upstate. They work a little bit more frequently with the National Guard, but we don't do a lot of work with them. So.
What would you say is the best first step for a young pilot trying to get within the forestry?
Like how to go about it?
Yeah, how to go about, like in terms of education, like getting the general knowledge, and then just.
Again, the ratings. I mean, that's the basic thing, and then the experience. If you could get get some like pipeline or traffic experience at low-level stuff. As far as formal education, I mean, there's no real requirement. Never hurts, but it's not a specific job requirement. And then the wildland firefighting or any firefighting. I mean, I'm convinced, because when I came in, my pilot credentials weren't, I didn't have, I think I had maybe 1,500 hours when I came on board with the agency. But I think what maybe gave me an edge was the fact that I had a number of years of firefighting experience. Although I will say that, for the guys and gals that are putting out, house fires, this is a whole different ball game. It's thought I knew a little bit about fighting, grass fires and brush fires, and then you go to school and you realize, I didn't really know that much about it.
I was going to ask a question real quick if nobody else has some. Okay, we got a couple. Good. I'll go last, so go ahead, Emma.
The Bambi bucket for holds the water.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that on the aircraft?
So it's suspended from a cargo hook underneath.
Okay.
Okay, and then we use short line, so it's probably suspended about 25 feet below the bottom of the helicopter. So, yeah, and
Do
then.
you want to, hey Phil, do you want to explain anything about the Bambi bucket? Because right here I got this little thing from, I think it's in California, where they're using, I think it's like one of the camera pods. And they actually, I think that was a GoPro. So if you want to explain how the Bambi bucket works, because they're about to pick something up, it looks like.
Yeah, so what we'll do is when the helicopter gets there, they'll, and we operate with a crew, we have a ground support, so we have a chase vehicle, a helicopter mechanic, fuel trailer will be dispatched along with the helicopter. Then they'll go, like I say, one of the things I try to do is locate dip sites so I can call them out to them. But they'll come in, go down, dip the bucket, fill the bucket up. There's a, you can see it's just a cable system,
right.
and it releases that bladder that opens up. This one doesn't look like it has it, but ours have the ability to, in the back of the helicopter, we have a tank with a water enhancer, basically a foam agent that can be injected into the bucket to just make the water more effective. So what they'll do is when they pick it up, they'll go ahead and introduce some foam into it as well, and then come over, get over the fire, and then release the water.
I'm sure you guys do, but do you guys have the authorization in like really bad situations to like go to someone's backyard and get stuff out of their pool? Because that's what happened in this video. Like it was something like the comments were like, oh yeah, this is a very, last resort option, but it was a bad spot. What are your guys' procedures for that?
mean, if we had to, so here's the thing. So here's my house, okay? Here's my house. Here's the fire, okay? Here's the fire, here's my house, and here's my swimming pool. Help yourself to all the water that's in the swimming pool. I mean, we would do it if you had to. One of the things you got to be careful of is, obviously coming into an area like that, the rotor wash from the helicopter is going to do havoc to, anything, pool furniture stuff, it's, so you've got to really, be careful about that. And fortunately down here, usually we can find, canals, lakes, ponds, things where better dip sites than a swimming pool. We do have these portable tanks that we can set up. We have one that's 2,000 gallons. They call it the pumpkin. It's basically a big orange bladder that you can fill with water and that we can dip out of. But I've not seen it used. And again, because we usually can find something pretty close to that works better to dip from.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we understand this properly with how it works. How the Bambi bucket works is it dips into the water sideways and kind of fills up.
So it basically when you put it in, it will submerge. Okay, that's what it's doing now, and then because you don't really want to drag it. You're kind of going down. It's weighted, so it will go down into the water source, fill up, and then as you bring it up, and then you start, you clear the water, you start transitioning to forward flight with it.
Can you guys see it as the pilot when you look over?
So we have mirrors, so they can see through the chin bubbles on the helicopter. So down by where where your feet are, where the inner torque pedals, it's glass, yep. And then there's mirrors down there, so you can,
I didn't know you guys have black mirrors.
Yeah.
Another question, I just noticed this when I was watching. Does stuff from inside the bucket get in the water? Because if you watch you see that little black spot that's in the water? And then there's actually, when you watch the helicopter fly away, it looks like from multiple passes. Do you see that? Is that something from the bucket, like trapped in the bucket getting into the water?
In that case, it's probably just sediment from the bottom, you know. So we try to get something that, you know, where you're not getting down into the bottom of it. You know, but if it's shallow, you can. And I even saw online, so it must be true. Like one time, they were dipping, and then there was a guy that was scuba diving, and they picked him up in the bucket, and they found this guy in the middle of the forest with scuba gear, and he was dead. And I mean, you may get a few fish in there, but you know, you're not going to get any whales or sharks or anything like that.
I think you had a hand, Josh has a hand, and then maybe a bit. So you go ahead, and then, okay, we'll go around. So you, we'll figure it out. So you go first.
So there's like, Florida does a lot more controlled burns than like the West. I was just wondering why that is, like West Coast or like in California.
Politics and environmentalists. You know, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of it does have to do with environmental concerns. There's a lot of political things as to who's responsible, whether it's the federal government, whether it's, you know, local government, you know, state government or federal government. Yeah, it's just here in Florida, we've been very proactive, and what happens is now, you know, we still get complaints all the time because any type of controlled burn we have to issue an authorization from the Forest Service. So we look, before we issue those, we look at things like the wind, and they'll actually enter in the location of the proposed burn, and it will generate, you know, a smoke plume, so we can look and see, you know, what's going to be impacted by that smoke plume, and if there's, you know, residential areas or smoke-sensitive areas, you know, even roads and things like that that'll be impacted, we'll deny issuing the authorization based on that. But people down here have just kind of become accustomed to it. It's very common, you know, to see, whereas out west, you know, not so much, just because it hasn't been their practice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Northwest Florida, and we learned a lot about prescribed burns. So all my classmates are very familiar with it.
Yeah, it's just something that's more. It's just, I think, it's just accepted here, and that's one of the reasons why we like to try and go out and talk to people and, you know, explain, you know, because in addition to fire risk mitigation, you know, it also helps the ecosystem. You know, there's a lot of benefits to it, and, you know, we can do it in a controlled way. I mean, for thousands of years, there have been wildfires, you know, and nobody put them out. And then probably, you know, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago or so, they came up with a, you know, 100% suppression policy. So any wildfire, we're going to put it out. And over the years, that's allowed the forest, you know, the undergrowth and so forth to build up. And, you know, now when you have a fire, you see the results of it. Those fine fuels, dead leaves and pine needles and stuff, you know, that over the years, you know, are several inches, if not more, thick. Well, that will ignite easily and will spread the fire quickly. And then once that gets going, then, you know, it's just, you know, fire will burn up what we call ladder fuels, things like that will take it up into the tree canopy, and then once it gets to the tree canopy, that's what you see on TV, where these fires are just, and you're not going to stop those. Those fires that you see, we just try to steer it a little bit, hopefully, but, you know, the only thing going to put those out is, you know, significant amounts of rain, snow, that kind of thing.
Okay. that was your question. Josh, so Josh, I'll let you next.
Yeah, kind of jumping off of the Bridger bucket earlier. Have you
Yes.
guys, I was gonna ask if you ever had any problems with wildlife getting into the buckets.
Not that I've ever, not, I mean, like I say, I'm guessing we've probably scooped a few fish, maybe even a turtle or something, but, but no, not.
Yeah, and then I guess, one other thing, how many hours do you get a year flying with the Forest Service?
So last year I flew about 300 hours, and that's probably about, I'd say between, maybe 300-400 hours is probably where most of our pilots are fixed-wing pilots. We're seeing the helicopter pilots not as much, maybe 100 to 150 hours. So yeah, for aspiring pilots, it's not a great time building job. I mean, you can build your hours, and but you've got to you've got to come in with a significant number of hours to start with. So what we find is a lot of pilots who have those requirements, and this is why they've kind of backed down on the minimum hiring, is when you get 1,000, 1,200 hours, now you start to become marketable to the airlines and charter operators and freight haulers, where you can build up some time relatively quickly in the type of aircraft that if your aspirations are to go to the airlines, they're looking for things like turbine time, twin engine time, and we don't offer that. Although with the Kodiaks now we do have a couple turbine engine aircraft, and so yeah, but it's as far as aviation, it's a very unique aspect of flying. The flying the fires is great. Doing a patrol and doing the other missions is fun. But they give us a lot of latitude. I mean, if I show up in the morning, there's nothing going on, and I want to, fly around.
Good to know.
So, well, and they encourage, because again, they want us to maintain our proficiency, and that's the way you do it, is to fly. But it's interesting. It's low-level flying. It's you're flying around fires in the smoke column. So it's like you said in that video that we started with, you can get a little bumpy and turbulent. So yeah, it's just a different type of flying. And if you don't want to flight instruct, if you don't have this burning desire to have people try to kill you all day, which is why I never became a...
Pull back like this after takeoff, yeah.
Right. One of the reasons I never had aspiration to being a flight instructor was like,
If I die, it's my fault.
Well,